Alright, this is my audience of 4 adult people and 3 extras, unfortunately. Alright, and I'm going to sit this right here, and you can just make sure that's on moist up.
No.
Alright, hi everyone. My name is Bernadius Jackson. I'm an LPN. I've been an LPN for approximately 7 years. And once when I entered a patient's room to give them medications, the patient said, "Are you an RN? No, are you a registered nurse?" And I said, "No, actually I'm an LPN." And he says, "Oh, I thought only nurses are allowed to pass medications." At that point I realized most people have no clue what's the difference between an RN and an LPN, if they even know that an LPN exists. Well, I'm here basically to tell you the difference between an RN and an LPN. The RN goes to school for approximately 2+ years, minimum of 2 years, where the LPN goes to school in Florida anywhere from 10 months to 18 months. Most of the programs now are averaging about 12 months long plus. Within the 2-year period for the RN, that includes 72 semester hours and clinical hours. Each semester is approximately 16 weeks long. Each class, give or take, is about 3 hours. So with that, 16 weeks times about 3 hours per week gives us about 48 hours per semester per class. So if you look at the 72 credit hours, most classes, like I said, are about 3 credits. You divide that by 72, gives us about 24 classes. With one class being approximately 48 hours per semester, you're looking at 48 times 24, which gives you 1,152 hours. So most RNs are actually in school approximately 1,152 hours. Versus the LPN, most LPN programs, clock hours are approximately, I thought it was 1,200, but I was corrected later, and they told me it was somewhere around 1,800. Some programs go as long as 2,100. So I just put 1,200 here and 2,100 here. And they're in class most of the time between 8 and 2, from 8 in the morning until 2 p.m., Monday through Friday. That's approximately 6 hours a day, 5 days a week, which is about 30 hours per week. For the 10-week program, that's approximately 40 weeks. 40 times 30 gives us 1,200 hours. For the 18-month program, that's approximately 72 weeks, which gives us about 72 times 30 is about 2,100 hours. So as you can tell, based upon my studying, the RN is actually in class less time and actually has more time to actually study. Most LPN programs are a lot more intense than the RN program, because you're in class all day, and when you get home you're pretty much studying the entire night trying to catch up. Things that are covered, I noticed, like I said, with doing my report and doing my research, the LPN and the RN both study the same thing. They both do anatomy and physiology, they both do medication and safety, they both do medical terminology, basic charting methods, age-appropriate care. For the LPN, it's called lifespan development, which is the same thing, cultural sensitivity and diversity, developmental psychology, and it's the same thing for the RN. It's just a separate course, psychology course, sociology course, etc. They both do developing care plans, which for the LPN they say that LPNs don't use care plans or will not be writing care plans, but it's still a big part of the grading criteria for an LPN's class. We also have to do nursing diagnosis. For the LPN, even though we have to do that and teachers focus on it heavily, it's not really part of, quote, what they say an LPN does, according to the Labor Bureau and Statistics. The positions that are offered for the RN versus the LPN, the RN, they're mostly offered nursing supervisor positions, charge nurse positions. In the hospitals, they're offered basically critical care unit, labor and delivery, and these are areas that are specific for RN. LPNs cannot work these areas, at least in the local hospitals here, not unless they've been there for a while, and unless they're short. If they're short, then of course they're allowed the LPN to actually go float to these units. The case management, those are reserved for RNs, mainly ones with their bachelor's degrees, the charge nurse, cath lab, or the OR surgery. For the LPN in this area do long-term care facilities, home health, hospitals. They can work there, but they're mainly working in the med-surg unit or the med-tele unit. They can also work ortho-neuro or post-critical care unit. The only difference with that is for most of these places here, the ratio patient to nurse is about, for ICU, labor and delivery, you're looking at anywhere from 2 to 4 patients. versus long-term care facility for an LPN, you're looking at 40 patients. Yes, in the state of Florida, an LPN can take up to 40 patients. For home health, that's usually one-on-one. Nursing supervisor, of course, you have no patients. You're just supervising the LPN. Same thing with the charge nurse. Most of the time, they have no patients. They're just supervising the LPN. With these areas that the LPNs are allowed to work, med-surg, the ratio is approximately 8 to 1. That means they can take 8 patients for 1 nurse, and usually that nurse is an LPN. They can also work med-tele. The ratio is about the same for that, ortho-neuro. PCU, the ratio is a little bit less, 5 to 1, but unless you've been an LPN for a long time with a lot of experience, you're not really allowed to work in PCU either. So you can see for the RN, the education to me seems to be less. The benefits are much better because you don't have to take as many patients, but yet they're trained, according to them, in theory. According to the LPNs, they're not trained in theory, but by the same token, they're required to take more patients. The salary is also a difference here in the state of Florida. For the RN, the salary in the lower percentile is $46,106 to the top 90 percentile, which is $67,090. For the LPN, according to the, this is from Salary.com. The first quote is from Salary.com. The LPN make approximately $30,000 rounded off, and the lower percentile up to about $42,000. Which, how accurate that is, I'm not really sure. That's not including any overtime. That's just base pay. For employment services for an LPN, for the RN, it's $64,260. For the LPN, it's $42,000. For the general medical and surgical hospitals, for the LPN, for the RN, they make $58,000, almost $60,000. The same thing for the LPN, it's probably about $20,000 or so less, give or take. The home health care services, and you see the figures here basically, just kind of look at the figures for the nursing care facilities versus the LPNs. So on average, the LPN is making around 30, 35. The RN is making about 55 to 65. And that's base. Like I said, that's not including overtime. With overtime, of course, both probably double their income, if not more. The references that I used for this was the Department of Labor, the Bureau of Labor and Statistics, and this is their website. I also used the Salary.com and the difference between the RN and the LPN. And I noticed one nurse actually said that she opted to go to LPN school because it was very hard trying to get into the RN school, and the wait time was just like, I want to say she said 3 years. So to have to wait 3 years to get into a program to go to school for RN when an LPN program is available. And she said when she graduated, unbeknownst to her, she was doing the exact same thing. I can speak for myself from working on the floor with RNs. There really is no difference between what the two actually do. I've read a couple of sites that said that the LPN cannot hang blood without an RN signature. Yes, that's correct. In LPN school, what they teach you is the RN does the initial assessment, and then the LPN basically carry out the plan of care. Unfortunately, the plan of care is not really listed, and most of the time there is no RN available to do the initial assessment, at least not here in the state of Florida. So basically the difference between an LPN and an RN, in my opinion, is salary and schooling. The length of time you go, not necessarily what you learn, but how long you've actually been in school. Like I said, an RN goes to school for about 2.5 years, 2 years or so, give or take. The LPN is in school for approximately 12 months. But the curriculums are almost identical. There really is no difference. And that's it.